Hey everybody, how you guys doing? Just coming home from work. I'm at the end of my week. Get a 3-day weekend. 3-day weekend, holy cow. As you can tell by my getup, it's pretty cold out here today. Just on my way home, picked up some groceries. I'm tired. I'm tired, guys. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm tired. But what's banging around in my head? I'm thinking about that blockade thinking about the blockade that's been going on, thinking about the coronavirus in China. I work in a toy store, right? So we've been talking up the chain. You know, it's after Christmas, we're replenishing our stock, and things are kind of taking their time, getting our way. And you know, when you work in retail and you work in a retail environment, if you don't have the stock, you can't sell it, you can't make the sales. And then that translates into reduced sales, translates into reduced hours. And when I'm making the schedule, you know, I take a look and I think, pretty thin schedule for some of these people, you know. And I've been through that myself. I've experienced the thin schedule. This is actually the first year where I haven't experienced the thin schedule, January, February, March, that most retail workers experience. You know, when January, February, March comes, you know, you better have your savings in place. You better have your support system in place, because you're not going to be making rent if you don't, because that's capitalism for you. So this is the first time I'm not going to be experiencing that. But my heart goes out to some of these people, you know. My heart goes out to these people who work hard for us all year round, you know. They try really hard, they do really well, they do good work, you know. They're good, honest people. And then come January, February, March, you know, I gotta cut their hours, I gotta get things down to the bone, because, you know, it's after Christmas and not many people are coming in. And typically we start shouting up the chain, right? Like, people come in and they're looking for, I don't know, something like Beyblades, right? They're not looking for anything unusual, you know. They're not looking for strange stuff, but we don't have it. And you get to late February, the way that we're getting, and you don't have any Beyblades, and you start to think like, hey man, what's up? Where's our Beyblades at? And so we've been chirping up the chain, right? And the Beyblades, they're not coming. Where's my Beyblades? And then you hear, oh, okay, the coronavirus has shut down the factories in China. People aren't going to work. People aren't using the transit. Nobody's getting in to make anything, right? And so that product, it's not getting on any ships. Those ships are not leaving China. China's in a quarantine state, right? This coronavirus is serious business. They're taking it seriously, and they're doing what they can to fight it. God bless them. I wish them all the best. And as you know, we start to get outbreaks here in Canada, right? We're doing our best to remedy it, take care of it as fast as we can, because you know, it's a serious contagion. People have died from it. It's no joke. But and the professionals are doing their best all over the world. But what it means for us in our retail environment is that, well, those Beyblades, they're not getting made. And even if they were getting made, they're not getting shipped. So they're not coming to my store. And what does that mean? Well, it means that I'm not putting them on my shelf, they're not getting bought. That means that my sales go down, and guess what I have to do? I gotta cut hours, right? And so a virus outbreak goes through China, means reduced hours for, you know, 60-year-old part-time retail worker, student, you know, people who are trying to make their way. It's kind of odd, honestly. It's kind of an odd thing to experience. That because halfway across the world is experiencing a localized, it's having far-reaching effects in places that these people have nothing to do with. They don't know who these people are. They don't know anything about it. And it gets me thinking about sort of the absurdity of that and how absurd it is that because the people of China are dealing with a serious situation, it's having these sort of far-reaching implications. And it's silly. It's silly to say, like, oh, I can't get my Beyblades. But that just shows you how silly the capitalist system is. That because I can't get my Beyblades, because someone's sick, because there's sickness, a serious epidemic going on, because I can't get that toy, a product I sell to children, it means that I have to make it more difficult for grown adults to pay their rent, to get food on their table, to take care of themselves, around them. And it just shouldn't be this way. It just shouldn't be this way. It's so profoundly ridiculous that here's a serious epidemic that has these implications for all of us. And I get to thinking, like, well, why can't we have these factories? If we want these items, if we want them for ourselves or for our children, why is it that we can't make them ourselves? Why is it that we don't want to do this for ourselves? Like, if we were experiencing this epidemic ourselves, no one would question. Like, I have people coming into my store being like, where's my Beyblades? And they have this sort of confused and in some cases angry sort of disposition because, you know, it's been a while, and it has been a while. And to their credit, when I explain what's going on, everyone is like, oh dear, and they understand. They don't pull that traditional sort of retail narrative of like being ignorant. Once they understand, and they communicate it to their children, and they communicate it to the people around them. And so there's a kindness. People do understand that. But it's silly that it needs to be explained. It's silly that there's this disconnect that 100% exists. People are very confused about very simple things. Why can't I get this item? I should be able to get this item. Well, you know, there's 100 million people in quarantine. They're not going to work. They're not building this stuff. They're not shipping it out because they don't want to spread this virus. God bless them for that. The exact opposite position of a capitalist society, by the way. If I had the coronavirus, they'd be saying, when can you come in? We need your labor. We need to exploit your labor for ourselves. I don't care if that coronavirus spreads through the society like wildfire. It doesn't matter to us. We need the pennies that we're going to shake out of you. Meanwhile, China's like, oh, there's an epidemic. Shut the factories down. Shut everything down. We cannot spread this. Oh, well, what about the workers? What are we going to do? Take care of them. Just take care of them. Give them the food. Give them the water. Give them the shelter. Give them what they need. Right? We're not messing around. You look at what's going on in China. They're not messing around. They're doing what's appropriate to help not only the society, but the citizens through this crisis. And it is a crisis. And yeah, you can point to stuff. You can always point to stuff. But they're dealing with it. And I don't believe for a moment that our society would deal with it with efficiency or effectiveness. I think our society would be brought to its knees. It would be the workers themselves that would be like, I'm not coming to work. And then there would be probably firings. There would be major problems like this, because when you're living in a state of chaos, when you've sacrificed everything to the altar of the free market the way that we have, when your society is run by death knights and chaos knights who don't care about you and care about money for themselves and are completely disconnected from everything, then they don't care. and they lack the capacity, right? You might even get some who'd stand there and be like, oh yeah, like workers shouldn't go in if they have this virus. For sure they shouldn't. But my competitors' workers are going in. So when something like the coronavirus breaches our medical defenses, it's going to absolutely rip through us. And it's going to rip through us in a bad way. It's going to make what's going on in China look like a child. We have no system. We've sacrificed our systems to death knights and chaos knights who don't care about us. Fortunately, our medical defenses are strong. Our hospital system is strong. Our quarantine systems are strong. And we're being serious about that on that level. But we've erected mainly a feudal system in the society that just doesn't care about anything but itself. So, oh, that was a winding road of ridiculousness right there. What was my point? Where was I landing with that? I just think it's absurd that we've sacrificed our own ability to have control of our own manufacturing processes to sort of the whims of a small select few people. And it's especially absurd from my perspective. I work in a toy store, right? The drivers, the demand is not being brought forward by rational speakers who are thinking hard about what they're purchasing. It's being brought forward by children. It's being forwarded by people who cannot understand what's happening outside of their own sphere of influence. And their parents, bless them, love them, wonderful people, but they're driven primarily by the demands of their children. They're not interested in what went into the creation of this item that they're purchasing. And they're not, and the absurdity of their own inability, their helplessness to sort of meet or fight against that demand. And I start to think, if we had control of our own production, if it was the society that had control of our production, would we be making these choices? And certainly we wouldn't be disconnected. If we had to shut down the city and had to stop sending people into work to stop producing these things, no one would say, well, how come I can't get this item? We would all understand why. And there would be no griping about it. We would be concerned about our friends and our neighbors because of their health and because of the serious epidemic that we are going through. And my hope, and I don't know if this is a serious hope, but my hope would be that this event, should it deepen, should the Chinese continue with non-production out of concern for their own citizenry, ahead of concern for their capitalists, unlike us, should this continue, then perhaps we would start seizing or regaining control of our own production and start actually making stuff ourselves. Anyway, one can dream. I hope you guys are doing well out there. I love you all. Have fun.